This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. So the Browns Pro Bowl list has come out, and what we know right now is that the Cleveland Browns have 5 guys on the Pro Bowl list. Those guys are no surprise, right? You have Myles Garrett, you have Denzel Ward, you have Joe Bitonio, you have David Njoku, and you have Amari Cooper. So no shockers there. But when it comes to the alternates, there are some guys who got recognized, even if it's in this quasi Pro Bowl fashion, in a alternate way that I do think is significant, especially for what we've been talking about this year. And there is one blatant snub that we're going to talk about as well. But Grant Delpit is a alternate. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is a alternate. Ethan Pulsic is a alternate. Wyatt Teller is an alternate, and so is Dustin Hopkins and Corey Bojorquez. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the Pro Bowl, it kind of works like all pro teams. So Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, Joe Bitonio, Amari Cooper, David Njoku. Think of those guys as first team Pro Bowl. And then when you have the alternates, you have guys like Grant Delpit, guys like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Ethan Pulsic, Wyatt Teller, Dustin Hopkins, Corey Bojorquez, who, if any of the players that are eligible for the Pro Bowl cannot show up, those guys will be the first ones in those position groups to fill the roles. So it's a pretty high honor, and it's good for Grant Delpit and JOK. I think it technically counts as a Pro Bowl nod for those players as far as contracts go, or it might be like an incentive thing, but that's good stuff for there. The one big snub in all of this news is Martin Emerson. And it's unfortunate because he's had to do so much work because teams have been trying so hard to desperately avoid Myles Garrett, and they've been trying so hard to desperately avoid Denzel Ward, that he's the guy who has to kind of cover all the passes that get thrown, him and Greg Newsome, because that's who teams feel like they can target. And he's done an excellent job. I mean, there's a number of stats that are around there. Lowest passer rating when thrown to, I believe he's like a 53, even lower than what Denzel Ward has. I think Martin Emerson definitely slept on, definitely should be a Pro Bowler, definitely should be given some kind of honor to recognize the type of season he's had. He falls into that weird category where he's not a rookie, but he's a young player, and he's not been in the league long enough to kind of get in off of that respect. So he falls in the middle, kind of in the cracks, and if he was a rookie, he would be able to be eligible for the all rookie team, but he's not. It stinks. He's not going to really get any awards individually to kind of show how great he played. But if you're looking at the Pro Bowlers, that's what the Browns have. So Myles Garrett, we already know that was a lock. Denzel Ward, Joe Bitonio, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, and then Grant Delpit, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Ethan Pulsic, Wyatt Teller, Dustin Hopkins, Corey Bojorquez. If we're wondering which one of these guys or what number of these guys will also be all pro, I would imagine Myles Garrett's going to be first team all pro. I would imagine Denzel Ward makes one of the second or third team all pro teams. Same thing with Joe Bitonio. Same thing with Amari Cooper. Same thing with David Njoku, because David might make first team all pro, actually. He might be up there. He might have an argument for that. So that is the Pro Bowl stuff. Grant, I think it's super fantastic that Grant's made it, given the season that he's had. And honestly, that's kind of what I want to focus on in today's video, is the alternates, because I feel like the alternates are a lot more interesting and a lot more noteworthy for this team. First and foremost, for those people who are using this as a knock against Andrew Berry, well, that's 2 Pro Bowlers to Andrew Berry's name. So Grant Delpit, JLK, 2 draft picks that that Andrew Berry had that have now turned into Pro Bowl caliber players. I know there were some people who had that as the goalpost for success for Andrew Berry. For people who already think Andrew Berry is a good GM, nothing changes with that. For people who don't think Andrew Berry is a good GM, they will find something or somewhere else to move that goal. It'll become all pro, right? Oh, he hasn't drafted a first team all pro guy or whatever it is. The fact is, when you look at this roster, right, Amari Cooper's playing better than he's ever played before. That's a result of good GMing. Denzel Ward's playing better than he's ever played before. That's a result of good management. Myles Garrett's playing better than he's ever played before. That's a result of good management. David Njoku's playing better than he's ever played before. That's a result of good management. Same thing with Grant Delpit, JLK, Ethan Posick, who is a Pro Bowl alternate after having a breakout season last year. Wyatt Teller, who's had his best run in Cleveland since Andrew Berry has gotten here. And then guys like Dustin Hopkins and Corey Bojorquez were just good finds. If you need more proof that the Browns have a good GM, you are never going to be satisfied. Just straight up, right? Like, for those of you who still demand more proof that the Browns have a good GM, I don't know what to tell you. I think it's pretty obvious. The Browns have a very good GM who's been able to stack a very impressive roster together. And think about this, man. There were guys who were perennial Pro Bowlers who got hurt this year, right? Jack Conklin is a perennial Pro Bowler. Nick Chubb is a perennial Pro Bowler. Who knows what Deshaun Watson could have done if he stayed healthy for the entire year. But he's been a guy who's been a multiple Pro Bowler. 3 of those guys, just on the offensive side alone, got hurt. And if just those 3 guys stay healthy, we're talking about 7, maybe 8 Pro Bowlers. And who knows, with a better record, maybe a guy like JLK, who shouldn't be an alternate, should be a starter, turns into a starter. Or maybe with a better running back in there, a guy like Ethan Posick and Wyatt Teller don't get left off of the list. And you're talking about a 10 Pro Bowl team. The Browns have 5, which is a tremendous amount to have. It's nothing to sneeze at. It's nothing to laugh at. It's nothing to take for granted at all. I'm not trying to make it seem like that. But the Browns have 5, and that's remarkable because, again, 26% of the salary cap is on IR right now. 26% of the salary cap is on IR, specifically on the offense. And you still got 2 Pro Bowlers on that offense. You might have coach of the year. You might have executive of the year. You might have comeback player of the year. This is such a great job. And this is one of the, look, we don't know what the postseason's going to be. I don't want to act like I'm guaranteeing any success in the postseason. Like, sometimes something bounces the wrong way in the wrong game and you don't get the success you want in the postseason. But regardless of what happens in the postseason, this is a crowning achievement for the Cleveland Browns. This is something that those of us who lived through what I like to call the dark times, right? The 2003 to 2017 years with this franchise, felt like this would never come. The day where we're looking at this and we're not just saying, hey, the Browns have 5 Pro Bowlers, but 6 alternates. We used to legitimately be so excited to have 1 Pro Bowler. For the longest time, this franchise had 1 Pro Bowler until Joe Thomas came along, right? It was just Jameer Miller. That's how bereft of talent this franchise had become after having to do an expansion draft because of reactivation. It was something that damaged this team significantly. And now, just 20 years later, it's finally flipped on top of its head. And now we finally have one of those really loaded, really talented rosters. And another thing I want to point out, when you look at this roster, Myles Garrett, lifelong Cleveland Brown. Denzel Ward, lifelong Cleveland Brown. Joe Bitonio, lifelong Cleveland Brown. David Njoku, lifelong Cleveland Brown. Grant Delpit, lifelong Cleveland Brown. JOK, lifelong Cleveland Brown. It's like 6 guys who are just fully homegrown. And that doesn't even include the guys like Wyatt Teller, who's not homegrown, but found a home in Cleveland and has had his best years of his career in Cleveland. It's not even including a guy like Amari Cooper, who is not homegrown by the least, but has had his best career years in the city of Cleveland. Even Dustin Hopkins is right now having a career year in the city of Cleveland. So just think about how different that was, right? The reputation used to be you go to Cleveland as a draft pick, you go to Cleveland as a free agent, you get traded to Cleveland. That's it. The peak of your career is over. You're not going to be your best self if you go to Cleveland. And now that part is over. You have draft picks who have been here forever that are becoming their best selves in Cleveland. You have regular free agents that signed here or got traded here that are becoming their best selves. And that just shows you the growth and the steps that this organization has taken. So that's what the Pro Bowl list means to me, both the Pro Bowlers and the alternates for this year. I think it says a lot about not just this organization right now, but where this organization is headed and how well this organization has been ran over the last 4 years. And as we continue to move forward with the 2023 season, I hope to see even more signs of this, because this isn't even including a guy like Martin Emerson or DeJuan Jones or other really young players that we've seen step up in small samples. So again, great job by Andrew Berry. Great job by Kevin Stefanski. Great job by Jim Schwartz. Great job by the coaching staff, everybody involved in having this team be able to compete at a very high level despite having the most injured roster in the NFL. Just being able to pull out 11 potential Pro Bowlers when you have 26% of the salary cap on IR. That's a feat. That's a feat. I don't think that's ever been done before. It sounds like executive of the year, and that sounds like coach of the year to me. But let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.